was not the first controversial law of its time, in 1973, Roe v. Wade would take center stage and forever change the definition of life as we know it. Roe v. Wade would become the foundational framework that would depict how life would be defined. Viability, which is defined as the ability to live outside of the mother's womb, would soon be the defining criteria of when life began. From the foundation of earth, life has been defined as the point of conception until the point of death. Does life truly begin at conception? The erroneous beliefs are no, that life does not begin at conception. However, this concept can be easily eliminated and put to rest should the clear definition of life be brought into focus. Today we will establish a set of criteria that determines life begins at conceptions as documented by scientists, elementary education books, and most importantly, our Creator. Among the many efforts made, there is substantial documentation that life begins at the point of conception. Although greatly debated, renowned scientists worldwide have derived a very defined list of criteria that include 5 lists. According to this criteria, which can be found in modern elementary scientific textbooks, the definition of life would need to be rewritten to not correspond with this set of criteria. The criteria that distinguishes that life begins at conception consists of the following. All living things have to be highly organized, acquire material and energy, respond to their environment, adapt, and reproduce. What does this set of criteria mean for the definition of life? According to the elementary definition, life begins at fertilization when sperm unites with an oocyte. From the moment of conception, the 5 criteria noted above determine that life has begun. Furthermore, non-living things cannot perform this list of criteria. Most often, by the time a woman discovers she is pregnant, the baby growing inside of her has become a definite life. Outside of this well-defined list of criteria, we can further specify life at conception in several ways. One differential is found in the formation of the baby inside of the mother's womb. Once the egg has been fertilized, a transformation has begun. As cells divide, life takes shape. Roughly at the 40th day of gestation, brain waves can be documented. Within the first 4 weeks, the heart has begun to beat, blood is beginning to circulate through the body, and the baby has developed his or her own blood type. By the 12th week of gestation, the baby is completely formed and functioning, processing nutrients, excreting urine, moving, and even sucking his thumb. DNA is another method that can be utilized to define life. A fetus can obtain 23 X chromosomes and 23 Y chromosomes, a set from each of its parents. This new set of DNA was present at the point of conception. DNA will determine the baby's hair color, eye color, as well as the sex of the baby, and furthermore, hereditary factors that will affect its life. As we have determined thus far, there is a set list of criteria which science has defined the basis of life. Also, we have explored other factors that correspond that life begins at conception. Now I would like to provide other evidence by scientists as well as our Creator. According to the National Association for Advancement of Preborn Children, several scientists have given undeniable proof that through studies and documentation that life ultimately begins at the point of conception. Dr. Baggiani, a professor of pediatrics and obstetrics at University of Penn State, stated, "I have learned from my earliest medical education that life begins at the point of conception." Dr. Baggiani determines that life begins at conception and ultimately ends at the point of death. He states that each and every stage of life is ultimately life as a whole. Another prominent physician, Dr. Lejeune, testified under oath after fertilization has begun and taken place, a new human being is formed. He furthermore stated that it is no longer up for debate at that point, but it is an absolute by the experimental evidence. Then he added that each individual is very neat in its beginning at conception. Ashley Montague, a geneticist and professor at Harvard, stated, "But basic fact remains. Life begins not at birth, but at conception." Internationally well-renowned OBGYN Dr. Nathanson was the co-founder of the National Abortion Right Action League, or NARAL, and performed 60,000 abortions over the life of his practice. Dr. Nathanson began a study on the science of pathology utilizing ultrasound ultrasound to observe an unborn child, which undeniably led to the conclusion that he had mistakenly participated in 60,000 abortions. Due to his newfound evidence in the study, Dr. Nathanson resigned his position as the OBGYN of his clinic, and he declined any further association with NABAL. He went on further to write for the New England Journal of Medicine that he was deeply troubled by the increasing certainty that he, in fact, had presided over 60,000 deaths. Dr. Nathanson has since gone on to produce films and write education to make the public aware of the truth behind abortion rights. Dr. Nathanson's conclusion was not based on religious belief, as he was an atheist during the abortions that he presided over. These were just a few examples among many to help establish the validity that life begins at conception. However, let us expound a bit more with a few examples from our Creator, how he distinguished that life was truly at conception. In Ruth 4:13, we find that Boaz has taken Ruth to wife and has gone unto her, and she has conceived. Here we clearly see that God has let Ruth conceive at the moment he and his wife were together. Jeremiah 1:5 states, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee." This passage depicts that before we were even a living being, God already knew us and had sanctified us to live. Today we have discussed the list of 5 criteria that are not only designated in elementary textbooks, but also embraced by world-renowned scientists as well as physicians, and we have also touched on our Creator's point of view. We should be careful as to not define life by a set of criteria that have been created to fit a social lifestyle or a political agenda. We should weigh out all the facts and have them based firmly according to the Bible first and foremost, and then have science affirming that which has been